On July 2nd, 1776, the Northern Continental Army arrived at Crown Point, following a long retreat from the St. Lawrence Valley in the heart of Canada. Brigadier General John Sullivan led a surprisingly orderly retreat up the Richelieu River and on to Lake Champlain, despite command falling on him from the death of his superior. Back on June 18th, the British advance guard was a matter of hours behind this American army at Saint-Jean. By the start of July, an odd calm descended on this Continental Army as they encamped on this peninsula 15 miles down Lake Champlain from Ticonderoga. Soldiers rested, junior officers enjoyed the sutlers, and the Army's staff rode around camp, knowing the British were 80 miles down Lake Champlain. Yet even as the Continental Congress signed and released the Declaration of Independence, the question remained, what next? A council of war, including all the Army's general officers, convened on July 7th to debate that exact question. Many of the Army's senior officers wanted to stay, and there was a good case to be made to remain at Crown Point. Upon this peninsula, General Amherst began a 1,000-man fort in 1759, along with a series of outworks to bolster it against attack from the south. Crown Point offered great anchorage for the Continental Army's fleet, with a commanding view down Lake Champlain. With Chimney Point opposite on the east shore, the lake constricted dramatically, which would force a British fleet into point-blank range of cannon batteries. Many Yankee officers worried yielding Crown Point opened the old military road from Crown Point into the Connecticut River Valley, allowing the British Army easy access into the heart of New England. Yet this was not the conclusion the Council of War reached. In a series of letters to General Washington through July, General Philip Schuyler explained his reasoning within the council and the conclusions they reached. Much of Crown Point's strengths were also weaknesses as a defensive position. The open water to the north of Crown Point made it likely the American fleet would have to retreat to the south if the British achieved naval superiority. The relatively broad plain to the east of Crown Point and the roads and farms in that area made it very easy for the British to march around Crown Point, cutting off the Continental Army from resupply, reinforcements, or retreat to the south. Though Crown Point had a very large fort and extensive supporting fortifications, they were all in disrepair, if not ruins, from a major fire in April 1773. At the same time, smallpox, which raged through the Northern Army's retreat from Canada, continued to build within camp at Crown Point. Even with the known sick moved across the lake to Chimney Point, the whole area had become contaminated with the disease. The very definition of Ticonderoga as a place between waters offered solutions to both of these challenges. By being at the confluence of Lake George and Lake Champlain, Ticonderoga offered two water routes to the south. Those infected with smallpox could go to the south end of Lake George. The Council of War resolved to make the small field hospital within Fort George into the Army's General Hospital. Smallpox could be isolated there, while uninfected troops and militia could safely travel north along Lake Champlain from Skenesboro to Ticonderoga. The Council of War agreed that they would have to contest the British with armed vessels on Lake Champlain and accelerate the construction of these wooden vessels for the fleet. Much as at Crown Point, if the British achieved superiority on the lake, the American fleet would have to retire to Ticonderoga. The narrow width of Lake Champlain around Ticonderoga made it much easier to block a British fleet, especially with a new fortified camp on the east side of the lake. As early as mid-June, General Schuyler began eyeing the long, elevated peninsula on the east side of Ticonderoga called Cape Diamond or Rattlesnake Hill. This strong ground offered an excellent position for a fortified camp, with steep cliffs to either side and a long, marshy creek running circuitously to the east. Schuyler boasted to Washington that 20,000 British soldiers could not overtake this position, defended by 1/4 of that in American troops. The Council of War readily accepted building this new camp, which Americans dubbed Mount Independence by July 29, 1776. New roads to Skenesboro and the existing military road would provide equal, or better connection to New England as existed at Crown Point. Yet in defense, much as with smallpox, Ticonderoga's place between two waters made it an excellent choice. If the British attacked at Ticonderoga from the west and cut off Lake George, the Continental Army could consolidate on the east side of the lake, retaining communication with the new roads and Lake Champlain. If attacked from the east, Americans had a very strong position and retained communication via Lake George. Either case offered the Northern Continental Army better odds than their current position at Crown Point. The 5 general officers assembled at Crown Point: Brigadier Generals Sullivan, Arnold, and Woedtke, with Major Generals Horatio Gates and Schuyler, unanimously agreed to 5 resolutions, putting this plan into action on July 8th. Unconvinced, other field officers held their own council of war the same day, pleading their case directly to Schuyler with 7 specific reasons for remaining at Crown Point. Through the rest of the month, Schuyler successfully explained the decision of the Council of War, even as the Army completed the retreat to Ticonderoga, expanding their camp to both sides of Lake Champlain. By the time the 4 brigades of the Northern Continental Army heard the Declaration of Independence, the die had been cast. The defense of this new nation's independence would be here at Ticonderoga, both on land and on the lake.